Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Indy Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Tallman, and with me once again today is our Director of Resident Relations, Kelsay Bolden. Welcome back to the show, Kelsay.
Thank you. Always happy to be here.
Yeah. How's your late spring going for you?
It's going really good. We have our oldest is graduating high school tomorrow,
Nice.
which is crazy to me. And then our youngest is going into 7th grade. So it's been a very busy couple of weeks for us, but all good.
Yeah, I think I was talking to Paul at our brokerage yesterday, and he mentioned something like his kids are graduating. One of his kids are graduating this week, and it's like that we have 900 graduation parties we have to attend. So
Yeah.
I think it's that time of year where school's out and there's just a lot of activity. I'm beyond those years.
Yeah.
But I certainly remember them and they're really busy. So,
Yeah.
Kelsay, in your role here, you're over our leasing team, and coinciding with school getting out, we're kind of right in the throes of what we call here our busy season, which is generally when school lets out to when school starts, the warmer
Yep.
months of the year, however you want to look at it. We are a seasonal market here in central Indiana. And I brought you on here today to discuss this idea of what renters want in 2026. Because I hear a lot of people out there, Kelsay, I don't know if you hear this or not, but, and it's locally, it's nationally, is that the rental market is just not the same as it used to be. We're not getting those big surges of renters, days on market. Actually, I was talking to one local property manager here, and he said his days on market are actually going up, which he was really surprised about. But so I just wanted to get your take on this. And I'll start with this question. What is your take on the rental market in central Indiana today?
Yeah. I would echo what you're hearing and saying. Right now is our busy season, and things are a little bit stagnant. And we've been saying this, so it's not something that is shocking to us, but it does feel a little bit uncomfortable because we're used to seeing those big surges and we're not really seeing that. People are staying put and we're not getting as many leads, applications, and move-ins as we've seen in the past. Now, a couple of years ago, things were moving along a lot more quickly than they are right now, but days on market are increasing across the board.
So let's drill into that a little bit, Kelsay. Have you noticed, like, what shift have you noticed from a renter's perspective or market conditions or factors? What is the reason why things are a little bit slower this year as compared to previous years?
Yeah. So I think that what we're seeing is the boom in multifamily and a lot of rental options across central Indiana. And I feel like really everywhere. I'm on the south side. I'm pretty sure there's been 3 apartments come up over the last 2 years. So I think that just the amount of rental options available is affecting our market, but also people are just staying put. We're signing longer leases. We're seeing high renewal rates still. So I think that's also affecting the market and making it a little bit more stagnant.
Yeah, I think that segues nicely to my next question, which is, it does seem we've all heard the term renter nation, like we're a renter nation now. And Jared Shore was on our podcast several weeks ago, and he brought up the fact that, I don't know if it's ever, but for a very long time, there's never been a time where it's the difference in affordability between leasing and buying has been greater. It is much cheaper today to rent than buy. And I wonder, you talked about renewal rates and people just kind of staying put. Do you think this stigma, and I don't know if it's a stigma, I guess maybe when I was in my first time home buyer years, let's say early to mid 20s, the stigma around you need to buy something. You don't want to rent forever. You don't want to throw your money away. But do you think that's changed? Like this idea of just say, hey, I'm going to rent for maybe 10 years. And then it's a reasonable long-term strategy. And that renting is no longer considered like a stepping stone to buying. What are your thoughts around that idea?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think for myself and also my peers, we've been in a long-term rental as we are considering buying a house. But it's funny to hear the shift because I would say a few years ago, people were like, you need to buy, you need to buy. But now when we talk about this, we hear a lot of, well, you should probably wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that the cost of owning a home with the repairs, it scares people a little bit. So I think that long-term renting is definitely seen more positively now than in the past. I have peers who have gone through their first time home buying experience and have decided to go ahead and rent again, just to have the flexibility too. So, um, I definitely think that there's not as much of a stigma around it. And again, we're seeing that with our renewals and the longer leases being signed. And even at move-in, we're offering longer lease terms and we're getting a huge portion of applicants elect for those longer lease terms than just the 1 year term.
Yeah, we've talked about that. And then Tim, who runs our renewals, indicated that he offers a lot of long-term or has a lot of takers at the renewal side. So maybe they signed a 2-year lease.
Hmm.
Initially, they're up for renewal 2 years later, and they sign another 2-year lease.
Yeah.
Right. So and I do think, and this is just theory on my part, that we went through a stretch during COVID where rental rates increased significantly,
Hmm.
like they have never done before here in central Indiana. And maybe people got caught in that. I was like, wow, another 10% increase, another 10% increase, maybe a 15% increase. And they're like, I want to have a more predictable rent and
Hmm.
so I can budget more clear, like longer term. And so I think there is something to that it's expensive to buy. They've went through some bad rent increases probably. They're like, I know I'll probably not have any desire to buy a home for at least 2 or 3 years. Why not lock it in? Why not just be
Yeah.
very understand what it's going to cost me and lock that in? So speaking of affordability, apartments.com came out with something recently and said that nearly half of renters in 2026 have adjusted their wish list, saying, I don't have to have this or that because managing my costs are more important. Are you seeing that play out? Because that was a national article, but are you seeing that play out locally? Are people more budget conscious or they're like, no, I want the better amenities? Tell me what you're seeing out there from our perspective.
From our perspective, I would say it's a mix. So I do think that people are sacrificing those very high-end upgrades that we saw a couple of years ago, like the stainless steel appliances, brand new countertops, flooring, things like that. Now, there are people that definitely still want that, and we want to make sure that homes are in great condition, which I know we'll probably talk about because we talk about it
You know,
every time. But price and location, I think, are the driving factors in with renters today. Location is very important. I know that even if a home has the best upgrades and it's not in the best location, it'll get bypassed. Same with the price. It could be priced very low, but if the location's great, I would say that's probably the most important factor to renters are price, location.
yeah. Do single families still rule the day? I mean, is
Yeah.
absolutely,
Sorry, I don't mean
absolutely.
to cut you off.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. We see it because we manage multifamily as well and duplexes and things like that. And without a doubt, our single family rentals lease much more quickly than any type of multifamily.
So dig into that just a little bit because there has been like a boom. We talked about this earlier of multifamily come online in Indianapolis. I was just in one last weekend. There's a little cafe that opened up on the first floor of this very large apartment building right downtown. And we went down there and had a quick dinner last Friday, and it was really good food. It's wow, this amenity is here. It's like in
Yeah.
this building. And as you walk by this building, you see a gym, you see a rooftop pool advertised on the building. You see all these wonderful amenities. And I think those apartments are probably doing okay. But what I want to talk, we don't manage those apartments, right?
Right.
We manage, like you mentioned, duplexes, quads, eightplexes, maybe a 10plex. And these are, in most cases, like older buildings and they're amenity less. There are no amenities really in these buildings. And we've taken on some of these properties recently. And Scott and I own some of those properties, right? Some of these
Right.
older multifamilies that have the Meridian Kessler area, Meridian Park area. And those have been a struggle.
Yeah.
And in just one particular case, we own a quad in Meridian Park, and it was completely updated, like beautiful finishes, granite, stainless. We did everything because if people listen to this podcast, this property suffered a fire. So we went in and our contractor just had to redo everything, and we did it up very nicely. But that property was such a difficult property to lease because there are no amenities, right? It's an old building. And I think those small multifamily, I think you're probably shaking your head, yes, like you agree. Those are really difficult in
Yeah.
today's market because if I want any type of privacy, if I've lived in a college dorm before or a fraternity or sorority or just student housing, and I come out and go, I don't want to do that again. Now, they may do it again if they have all these wonderful amenities around them,
Yeah, absolutely.
or they can take an elevator down to a coffee bar or have a gym on the bottom floor of their building and a pool on a rooftop. But if you don't offer those amenities, the only thing you could offer is incredible location, which is why some of those buildings will still do okay because they're located so well. But again, I think those, what we call like boutique multifamily that don't have amenities are really struggling. And I think
Yeah.
we're seeing that, right?
Yeah, because you're competing with the boom of multifamily, the brand new buildings that are coming up with those amenities.
Yeah. And we're even seeing multifamily come online. There's a couple, maybe a handful of builders here that are building these duplexes and quads, but they're not necessarily in the best locations. Now, while they're brand new, they still don't have amenities. They're not big
Right.
enough to have the big amenities, but they're struggling if they're not located well.
Right.
I think we see that. We've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
So location, I think it's the three most important things about real estate are location, location, and location.
Right.
And that is really holding true, maybe even more in a market that's not booming. Those tried true things really come to light more as the general rental market is not as great as it used to be. So let's talk about single family people. What are some of the misunderstandings that people have about renting a single family home versus an apartment?
The number one thing is maintenance. So when you rent an apartment, it's all inclusive, right? But when you rent single family, there's more maintenance requirements of the renter. So we, of course, have maintenance guidelines, just like any good property management company should. And we have 24-hour emergency maintenance, but the guidelines are different for a single family renter versus an apartment renter. The maintenance requirement is just different there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. I think that's a big thing. And like lawn care is
Mhm.
another thing I think that I've heard over the years where people are, and I guess you could say that's some sort of type, maintenance or whatever, but
Yeah.
single family homes with our leases anyway, it's always the responsibility of the resident to mow that yard and to maintain the yard. And that can be different for people,
Mhm.
and it's just a reality that some people have to get over. So let's talk about the mindset of people who are touring homes today. What are the top things that people are going to ask about? Like, hey, I toured this property, but I have these questions. What questions are today's renters asking about properties they see?
Yeah. One thing you already mentioned is lawn care. And then I kind of group this into one. So lawn care, utilities, amenities. What does the home include? Another thing that we get a lot is how old is the property? I think people care about how the property has been maintained. And then, of course, what's the total cost to move in?
Right. Okay. So yeah, those, and I don't, that probably hasn't changed a lot. Has it or has it? Or do you
I
just,
think so. I feel
yeah,
like since I've started working here, those are really just the top ones that we get. They're
yeah.
pretty standard.
I think the age of the home is interesting. I don't ever
Yeah.
remember my days of showing homes and a long time ago that people said, how old is this house? I do remember people opening up appliances, maybe even looking at the furnace, like, how old is that
Mhm.
thing? Because they may have had a bad experience where a furnace
Yeah.
went down on them, winter. So I guess it's all very specific and experience related for people that if you've had a bad experience with something in the past, you may double down and check it more carefully the next time so history doesn't repeat itself.
And I think that renters, not that they were ever not savvy, but I do think that renters are more savvy now in knowing the questions to ask once they've toured a home. So
Yeah.
I think that plays a factor into it as well too.
Yeah, that's probably true. So pets, people still love pets. I did hear something crazy the other day. I just came to my head when I was talking about this, is that I heard dog ownership is actually down because the cost of owning a dog has increased so much that people aren't owning it. There's not as many people who own dogs anymore as used to be. Now, you probably have no sense of that because we don't have this massive audience necessarily, but I thought that was interesting. And I can look, raising hand here, it's expensive to I have 2 dogs. And I'm
Yeah.
sure most listeners that are listening to this have dogs. And if you, let's say, maintain them the right way, get there every 6 months or every annual checkup, the teeth cleanings are insane right now. Just a standard visit, even if everything's perfect, is going to cost you a few $100s to own a dog. But still, people love their pets.
Yeah.
They will determine what properties people rent. So talk about our pet policy. And is that still something you think moves the needle if owners choose to allow pets or not?
Yeah. It's funny we're having this conversation while my cat is
Yeah.
meowing in the background. I also have a dog, but
Yeah.
my biased opinion, I'm more of a cat person.
Yeah.
But yeah, we encourage pets. I know we have some clients and we absolutely respect their decision that don't want to allow pets, but homes take longer to lease when they don't allow pets. And we work with a network of real estate agents as well who tour our homes. And that's probably one of the most common questions we get is, does this home accept pets? We do put that in our listing, but in some cases it will say no pets. And then it's always, can this be negotiated? So
Yeah.
we encourage our homes to be pet friendly because we know that it will help move the needle and getting at least faster. And most people do have pets nowadays. Our pet policy is pretty standard. It's $25 per pet. We do have breed restrictions, things like that. So if someone has more than 3 animals, then there are additional deposits and stuff that would need to be paid. So we do try to keep our clients in mind when it comes to that. If there's damage from pets at move out, we have an insurance process that can help get some money back for our clients to recover costs for those damages. So we understand the risk involved, but we also try to do everything we can to help our clients with any issues that involve pets too.
Yeah, you talk about risk. I think you can make an argument it's more risky to not allow pets because
I would agree.
you're simply going to wait longer, or in most cases. Look, it's not an absolute, but generally speaking, you're going to rent your house faster if you allow pets, and you can get more money, and you still have that security of the security deposit plus the insurance you mentioned, which is a great benefit that our residents receive when we enroll them in our benefits package. Yeah, pets are so important. And I think especially in today's market, if you're trying to remove barriers to your property to get it rented, which a lot of people are, pets is an easy one. Just allow them. And again, it goes back to this experience-based decisions. If you've had a bad experience as a landlord with a pet, you're going to be less apt to allow pets.
Yeah.
So I get it. We've had horrible experience. We've had a couple of bad experiences on our own rentals with pets, but by and large, they've worked out just fine. And I highly recommend allowing pets if at all possible. So, Kelsay, we're going to get back to what people are looking at when they get in these properties, but condition, it goes without saying, I just think we need to repeat it again. I'm guessing condition plays a massive part in someone selecting. So you could be located really well.
Mhm.
You could be within walking distance to a coffee shop, or maybe you're around the corner from a school you attend, or maybe your kids attend. But condition will rule too. It's an important part. So talk about how we look at that and coach our owners through those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that when it comes to condition, it circles back to what we were saying earlier. Renters aren't necessarily looking for every high-end upgrade, but but they are expecting the home to be in good condition. So when they walk in, they want it to feel fresh. I think that's the biggest thing. So if you're trying to wait another year on that carpet replacement and there's visible stains, we're going to recommend to our clients, let's go ahead and get it replaced. It's going to get your home rented more quickly. Take the initiative to do painting if needed, of course. Yeah. And just those minor details that maybe didn't matter so much a couple of years ago, they do matter now because there's a lot of options out there and people want something that is fresh and when they walk in, it feels like home. We're not going to recommend anything excessive to our clients, but we are going to recommend repairs that we feel like will rent your home more quickly.
Yeah. And the only caveat to that is we will require things that are excessive if safety isn't right. So that is one thing we can't budge with. Mm-hmm. Safety has to be a very baseline requirement that all our homes are super safe. All right, let's finish with applications. Technology's evolved a lot. We've had multiple podcasts about screening and the technology behind screening and how scam artists out there can fake pay stubs and things like that. But aside from that, what do people expect at the application process? I'm curious about that. Is it just, we are not like, if you walk in and you get a loan for a car, or you apply, hey, I want to buy this car and I need financing, it's minutes, right? Because it's purely, I think, credit score based for the most part. We're not like that. We don't have those instant approvals. We have instant denials if your credit score at a certain point, but we do a lot of vetting to make sure it's to me, in some ways, the most important decisions we make as property managers is who to put in that property. We have this need to vet very thoroughly and maybe take our time. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but just be very methodical, I should say, about going through the application process. But what do renters expect today versus maybe what they expected several years ago when technology wasn't as vibrant?
Yeah. And I would say that we do have a process where it does take a couple of days, but we're not just sitting there trying to take our time. We're trying to do things as quickly as possible because it doesn't benefit us to not have the home rented. So we want to move things along quickly. I think that when it comes to the application process, renters are still stuck a little bit in the past, but I did want to go over some things that they should expect and what we do. One thing that I have noticed that has developed over the years, and it's probably just people's instant gratification mindset, but even if we don't have an answer, they want instant communication. I've received your application. We're doing X, Y, and Z right now. So we have worked on communicating very quickly and thoroughly. So every applicant knows, okay, we don't have an answer yet, but here is where we're at. So that instant communication is something that applicants expect. I remember a couple of years ago, sometimes people would apply and you wouldn't hear from them.
Yeah.
And so now it's a little bit different. But the way that we process applications now is, like you said, very thorough. So some things that they should expect is to provide very detailed documentation. I think that we have a process where they input their banking information so we can connect their bank accounts so we can actually verify the income going into their account versus just handing us paper pay stubs that can be easily modified. Yeah. So we do have very thorough processes for verifying that this person applying is the person that is going to be living in the home. And I do think that most renters expect that. It's very rare, maybe twice a year, that we get someone ask for like the old school paper application. We do have them, but we do pretty much everything online. So yeah, just providing that detailed documentation and just being very thorough in the process.
Yeah, I think communication, it still rules the day, I think. I've used that term 3 times now, I think. So maybe I shouldn't anymore, but I think it is so important today. And they're turning over their very private information to us. And they want to make sure it's handled correctly and expeditiously and that they kind of know what's going on at all times. And we are a real-time information society where people want those real-time updates. And I get it. And also, I think there's that, again, looking at past experiences, they've probably missed out on homes. We may be the 3rd or 4th home they've applied for, and they're like, not again. So I want to stay in tight communication to make sure that this company has everything they need and that hopefully I'll get the home. So, well, yeah, I think it's been a great conversation, Kelsey. I appreciate you coming on here. Anything else that kind of comes to mind about how tips for landlords to get their property to shine a little better or differently?
Not anything new than what we've said, just that price and condition. I think that right now it's hard for everyone. It's hard for us. It's hard for our clients. Patience is
Yeah,
probably what's needed the most. And we know that's very much easier said than done,
sure.
but we're on the same team with our clients. We're trying to get at least as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because we've had some very good weeks and months of leasing this year. It's not, things
Yeah.
are just terrible at all. That we've had some nice bursts. And we just haven't seen that consistent. We get multiple applications every day and
Mhm.
police signings a day. That's been where it's been a little more hit and miss. But as we talked about at the top of the show, school is closing up. A lot of schools around here are out for the summer. And this is where kind of the rubber hits the road for leasing, as we see a lot of people saying, okay, I got them. They're out of school. Let's find a different location now. They can double down and focus their efforts on that. And so I think there's a lot of optimism around it. I think there is probably a built up demand, and we hope that'll happen. I think everyone out there hopes that'll happen. So, well, Kelsey, again, thanks for being on here.
Yep. Thank you.
We hope everyone has picked up some information that will help them in their investing. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another podcast. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and please stay invested in your investment.